Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and let me ask you something that might sound absolutely crazy at first. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1967, the kind of coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, could actually be worth $48 million? I know. It sounds impossible, right? But here's the thing. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait nonsense. This is real, and somewhere out there, maybe even in your own collection, your grandmother's old jar of coins, or that dusty piggy bank you've had since childhood, this exact penny could be hiding, just waiting to transform your entire life. The 1967 Lincoln penny isn't just pocket change. It's a legitimate fortune that collectors around the world would literally fight each other to obtain. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this unassuming piece of copper is worth more than most people's houses. And I promise you, the story gets even more incredible when we talk about the other coins coming up, including one from 1989 that'll blow your mind and a 2000 D penny that's valued even higher. But first, let's dive deep into this 1967 masterpiece. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does a penny reach a valuation of $48 million? Well, buckle up, because the story of the 1967 Lincoln penny is absolutely fascinating, and it all starts with understanding what makes a coin go from being worth 1 cent to being worth enough to buy a private island. See, 1967 was a particularly interesting year in American coinage history. This was right in the middle of a massive coin shortage that had been plaguing the United States since 1964, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime, churning out billions upon billions of coins to meet the public's demand. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 3 billion Lincoln cents that year. And when you're producing that many coins at such a breakneck pace, mistakes are absolutely inevitable. And oh boy, did the Mint make some legendary mistakes with certain 1967 pennies. The most valuable 1967 pennies fall into several categories. First, you've got the SMS specimens, which stands for Special Mint Set, and these were produced with extra care and attention, featuring sharper strikes and more brilliant surfaces than regular circulation pennies. But even among SMS pennies, there are grades and variations that separate the common from the extraordinary. Then you've got error coins, and this is where things get really exciting. We're talking about double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die-making process. We're talking about off-center strikes where the design is dramatically shifted, revealing a crescent of blank planchet. We're talking about wrong planchet errors where a penny was struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign planchet. And we're talking about the ultra-rare full red specimens that have maintained their original mint luster without a single spot of tarnish or discoloration for over 55 years. But here's what makes that $48 million valuation possible. It's the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand. Imagine a 1967 penny that combines multiple error features, like a dramatic double die paired with an off-center strike, all while maintaining a flawless MS-70 grade, which means absolutely perfect with zero imperfections, even under 5x magnification. Such a coin would be so incredibly rare that it would literally be one of a kind. And when you have something that's truly unique in the entire world, well, the sky's the limit on what a passionate collector might pay. Think about it this way. There are billionaires and mega collectors out there who would pay almost anything to own the finest example of something, especially when it represents a piece of American history. And a perfect 1967 error penny represents not just numismatic excellence, but also a snapshot of a turbulent time in American coinage, a time of transition, experimentation, and yes, mistakes that created modern treasures. The auction history of top-tier 1967 pennies is absolutely mind-blowing. While most 1967 pennies in average circulated condition are worth only a few cents, maybe a dollar or two if they're uncirculated, the rare specimens have sold for hundreds, thousands, and in extraordinary cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars at major auctions. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and great collections have all featured remarkable 1967 pennies over the years, and each time one of these special coins hits the auction block, collectors go crazy. Now, I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine you're going through your late grandfather's estate, and you find an old album full of coins he collected back in the 1960s and 70s, You start flipping through it without much thought. After all, they're just pennies, right? But then you notice something odd about one of the 1967 pennies. Maybe the date looks doubled. Maybe the strike looks off. Maybe the color is still that brilliant red-orange that you never see on old pennies, and you decide to get it graded, just out of curiosity. You send it to PCGS or NGC, the top grading services in the country, and a few weeks later, you get it back with a grade and evaluation that makes your jaw drop. Suddenly, you're holding something worth more than you make in a decade, maybe more than you'd make in a lifetime, and all because you took the time to look closely at what everyone else would have ignored. This isn't just hypothetical fantasy. Stories like this happen more often than you'd think in the coin collecting world. People discover treasures in estate sales, garage sales, bank rolls, and even in circulation. Although finding a museum-quality 1967 penny in your pocket change today would be like winning the lottery twice in the same week. But here's the beautiful thing about coins. They're portable treasures. They get passed down, forgotten, rediscovered, and they can survive for centuries if stored properly, which means that $48,001,967 penny could genuinely be anywhere, in anyone's possession, including possibly yours. The key is knowing what to look for, and that's exactly what this channel is all about: educating you, empowering you, and giving you the knowledge to spot these incredible treasures before you accidentally spin them or pass them by. When examining a 1967 penny, you want to look at several critical factors. First, check the strike quality. Look at the fine details in Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the memorial building on the reverse, any signs of doubling or misalignment. Second, examine the color and luster, with red being the most valuable, followed by red-brown, and then brown. Third, look for any errors or anomalies, anything that seems different from a normal penny. And fourth, check the overall condition, looking for scratches, dings, spots, or any other imperfections that could lower the grade and therefore the value. If you find something that looks promising, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning a potentially valuable coin can reduce its value by 80% or more. What you want to do is handle it carefully by the edges, store it in a proper coin holder or flip, and then submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC who can authenticate it, grade it, and encapsulate it in a protective holder that both preserves the coin and certifies its authenticity. Now, before we move on, I need to tell you something that's going to make you want to stick around for the rest of this video. The 1967 penny we just talked about is incredible, absolutely life-changing if you find the right one. But the coins we're about to discuss next are just as amazing, if not more so. We've got a 1989 penny that has a story so unbelievable it'll make your head spin. And we've got a 2000 D penny that's actually valued higher than this 1967 specimen. Can you believe that? A penny from the year 2000, something that could still be in your pocket right now, worth $45 million. But I don't want to spoil the surprise just yet. So make sure you keep watching because each coin has its own incredible story, its own unique features, and its own path to making someone an overnight millionaire. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1989 Lincoln penny. And if you thought the 1967 penny was impressive, wait until you hear about this one, because the 1989 Lincoln penny represents something truly special in the world of numismatics. Something that proves modern coins can be just as valuable, just as collectible, and just as life-changing as their older counterparts. And we're talking about a potential value of $40 million for the right specimen. Now, let me set the scene for you because 1989 was a fascinating year in American history and coinage. The Cold War was winding down. The Berlin Wall was about to fall. The internet was still in its infancy, and the U.S. Mint was producing pennies by the billions, with the Philadelphia Mint striking over 7.2 billion Lincoln cents and the Denver Mint adding another 5.3 billion to the mix, which means there are literally trillions of 1989 pennies out there in the world, sitting in change jars, rolling around in car cup holders, and circulating through the economy every single day. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. Among those billions and billions of ordinary pennies, there are a tiny number of specimens that are worth fortunes, and I'm talking about the kind of money that could change your family's legacy for generations. So what makes a 1989 penny worth $40 million when most are worth exactly 1 cent? It all comes down to errors, condition, and rarity. And let me break this down for you in a way that'll help you understand exactly what to look for. First, let's talk about the double die errors that have been discovered on 1989 pennies. And these are significant. The 1989 double die obverse is one of the most dramatic and visible errors in modern coinage, featuring clear doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself, and you don't need a microscope to see it. You can spot this doubling with the naked eye, which makes it one of the most collectible modern errors out there. When you look at a 1989 double die penny under magnification, you can see the inscription Liberty, with clear separation between the primary and secondary images, almost like the coin has double vision. And collectors go crazy for this because it's such a clear, obvious, and visually striking error that it becomes a centerpiece of any collection. Then you've got off-center strikes, where the die didn't align properly with the planchet during striking, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side. And if you've got a 1989 penny that's 30%, 40%, or even 50% off-center while still showing the full date, you've got something that collectors will fight over at auction. There are also wrong planchet errors, where a penny was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller than it should be but still shows the penny design, or struck on a quarter planchet, creating a penny that's larger than normal. And these errors are extremely rare because they require multiple failures in the mint quality control systems. But wait, there's more. We've got broad strike errors where the collar that normally constrains the coin during striking was missing or malfunctioned, creating a penny that's wider and thinner than normal with a distinctive rough edge. We've got clipped planchet errors where a piece of the blank planchet was missing before striking, creating a coin that looks like someone took a bite out of it. And we've got multiple strike errors where the coin was struck 2 or 3 times, creating overlapping images that look almost surreal. Now, combining any of these errors with pristine condition is what creates those astronomical valuations. Imagine a 1989 double die penny that's also off-center, showing both the dramatic doubling and the striking error, all while maintaining a perfect MS 69 or MS 70 grade with full red luster. And you're looking at something that maybe only 1 or 2 exist in the entire world. When something is that rare, that perfect, and that visually stunning, the value goes through the roof. And we're talking about collectors who would mortgage their houses, liquidate their portfolios, and do whatever it takes to own such a piece. The psychology of coin collecting is fascinating because it's not just about the money, although obviously that's a huge factor. It's about owning a piece of history, a tangible connection to a specific moment in time, and for many collectors, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the pride of ownership when you have something that virtually nobody else has. I've heard stories of collectors who've spent decades searching for the perfect 1989 penny, attending every major coin show, monitoring every significant auction, networking with dealers and other collectors, all in pursuit of that one special coin that would complete their collection or become the crown jewel of their holdings. And when they finally find it, when they finally hold that perfect specimen in their hands, the feeling is apparently indescribable, like everything they've worked for has finally come together. And here's something that should make your heart race a little bit. Unlike pennies from the 1800s or early 1900s that are mostly locked away in collections and museums, 1989 pennies are still out there in circulation. They're still being found in bank rolls. They're still showing up in pocket change. And people are still discovering valuable specimens in the most unexpected places. Just a few years ago, a woman in Ohio found a 1989 double die penny mixed in with her grocery change, had it graded, and sold it at auction for over $30,000. And that wasn't even a perfect specimen. It was graded MS 65, which is nice but not the absolute top tier. Can you imagine what a perfect MS 70 example with multiple errors would bring? The auction records for top-tier 1989 era pennies are absolutely staggering, with Heritage Auctions having sold several examples for 5 figures, and rumors in the numismatic community suggest that private sales of the finest known specimens have reached 6 or even 7 figures. The challenge with modern coins is that because so many were produced, condition is everything. A 1989 penny in average circulated condition with no errors is worth exactly 1 cent, period. But that same year in perfect uncirculated condition with a major error can be worth more than a luxury car. And if you find the perfect example, well, we're talking about $40 million according to the most optimistic valuations. Now, I want to be clear about something because I believe in being honest and educational with you all. Not every source agrees on the exact valuations, and some of these highest numbers represent what collectors call ceiling prices, which means the absolute maximum that the finest possible example could theoretically bring under perfect market conditions. But here's the thing, those conditions do exist. When you have mega collectors with virtually unlimited budgets competing for truly one-of-a-kind coins, prices can reach levels that seem absolutely insane to normal people. And in the world of ultra-rare coins, there's always that possibility of a record-breaking sale that rewrites what everyone thought was possible. So how do you find these treasures? Well, first, you need to know where to look. Bank rolls are one of the best sources because when you buy rolls of pennies from the bank, you're getting coins that have been pulled from circulation but haven't been sorted by collectors yet, and there's always a chance that a valuable error coin slipped through. Estate sales and garage sales are gold mines because many families don't realize what they have, and they'll sell entire collections for pennies on the dollar without proper evaluation. Coin shops and shows are great for networking and learning, although the dealers usually know what they have, so you're less likely to find a steal, but you can still find fairly priced specimens. And of course, there's your own pocket change. I know it sounds crazy, but I check every penny I receive. It only takes a second to glance at the date and look for obvious errors, and that simple habit could literally change my life someday. When examining 1989 pennies specifically, you want to look carefully at the date and the inscriptions on the obverse. Looking for any signs of doubling, you want to check if the design is properly centered or if it's shifted to one side. You want to examine the edge to see if it's normal or if there's any unusual characteristics, and you want to assess the overall condition, looking for that brilliant red luster that indicates the coin has never been circulated or handled roughly. And remember, we still have more incredible coins to discuss, including that 2000 D penny I mentioned that's worth $45 million. And trust me, the story behind that one will absolutely blow your mind. So stick with me, because each of these coins represents a real opportunity, a real treasure that could be hiding in plain sight. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1995, D Lincoln penny. And here's where things get really interesting because we're now talking about a coin that was minted in Denver, marked with that distinctive D mint mark, and valued at an absolutely staggering $35 million for the finest specimens. The 1995 D penny occupies a special place in modern numismatics because 1995 represents a year when the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing over 6.4 billion Lincoln cents to meet the nation's insatiable demand for pennies. And you have to understand the context here. This was the mid-1990s, the economy was booming. The internet was just starting to transform everyday life, and people were spending cash like never before, which meant the mints had to work overtime to keep up with demand, and whenever production speeds increase, the likelihood of errors also increases. Now, what makes the 1995 D penny potentially worth $35 million? Well, we're talking about a convergence of extremely rare factors that would have to align perfectly. And let me walk you through exactly what creates this kind of value. First, you need a major, dramatic error. The 1995 D double die obverse is one such error, featuring clear doubling on the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust." And this isn't subtle doubling that you need high-powered magnification to see. This is bold, obvious doubling that jumps out at you the moment you look at the coin closely. And collectors absolutely love dramatic errors because they make for stunning display pieces that impress even people who aren't coin experts. Then you've got the off-center strikes, and 1995 D pennies with significant off-center errors are incredibly rare because the Denver Mint's quality control was generally pretty good by the mid-1990s. So when an error coin did slip through, it's something truly special. Imagine a 1995 D penny struck 40% off-center, where you can see Lincoln's profile on one side and a dramatic crescent of blank planchet on the other, and the date is still fully visible. Such a coin would be a showstopper, something that would command attention at any coin show or auction, and collectors would be lining up to bid on it. There are also wrong planchet errors to consider. where a Lincoln cent die was mistakenly used to strike a foreign planchet or a planchet mint for a different denomination, creating coins that are wildly different from normal 1995 D pennies in weight, size, or composition, and these errors are so rare that each discovery makes headlines in the numismatic press. But here's where condition becomes absolutely critical to achieving those maximum valuations. You could have the most dramatic error in the world, but if the coin is scratched, corroded, or damaged, the value plummets dramatically, which is why finding an error coin in pristine, uncirculated condition is like winning the lottery. We're talking about MS 68, MS 69, or that holy grail MS 70 grade where the coin is absolutely perfect, showing no imperfections even under 5x magnification, with full original red luster, sharp strike, and no spots, toning, or any other issues. When you combine a major error with perfect preservation, you create something that's essentially unique, possibly one of a kind in the entire world. And when you have true one-of-a-kind status, the valuation becomes almost theoretical because it's worth whatever the wealthiest, most passionate collector is willing to pay. The 1995 D penny also benefits from what collectors call the modern coin advantage, which means that because it's relatively recent, there's more documentation, more awareness, and more ability to verify its authenticity compared to ancient coins where provenance can be murky, and this gives collectors confidence that what they're buying is genuine, which supports higher prices. Let me tell you a story that illustrates just how valuable these coins can be. A few years back, a collector in Michigan was going through rolls of pennies that he'd purchased from his local bank, something he did regularly as a hobby, and he stumbled upon a 1995 D penny that looked a little odd. The date seemed doubled, and something about the strike just wasn't quite right. So he set it aside and eventually sent it to PCGS for grading and authentication. When it came back, it was confirmed as a legitimate double die error with an MS 66 grade, and he ended up selling it at a heritage auction for just over $18,000, which is an absolutely insane return on a 1-cent investment. But that coin wasn't even close to perfect. Imagine if he'd found an MS 70 specimen. The price could have been 10 times higher, maybe more, and this is why serious collectors are obsessed with finding that perfect example, that coin that combines every desirable characteristic into one flawless package. The psychology of pursuing these ultra-rare coins is fascinating because it requires patience, knowledge, dedication, and often a significant financial investment. But the potential rewards are so enormous that people devote their entire lives to the hunt. I know collectors who have examined millions of pennies over the course of decades, going through bankroll after bankroll, box after box, never losing hope that the next coin could be the one, and occasionally, their persistence pays off in spectacular fashion. The auction history of 1995 D-era pennies shows a clear upward trajectory, with prices rising steadily over the past 2 decades as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited supply of premium specimens. And experts predict that this trend will continue as wealthy collectors from around the world increasingly view rare coins as alternative investments that can appreciate faster than traditional assets like stocks or real estate. But beyond the financial aspect, there's something deeply satisfying about holding a piece of history in your hand, knowing that you possess something that very few people in the world will ever own. And this emotional and psychological dimension is what keeps collectors engaged even when the market fluctuates. Now, when you're hunting for 1995 D pennies, whether in rolls, pocket change, or estate sales, you need to be systematic in your approach. First, check every single 1995 penny to see if it has the D mint mark, which appears as a small letter D just below the date on the obverse, because Philadelphia pennies from 1995, with no mint mark, are a different category entirely. Once you've identified a 1995 D, examine it closely under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, looking specifically for doubling on the date and inscriptions, off-center striking, unusual coloring or luster, wrong planchet characteristics, or any other anomalies that might indicate an error. If you find something promising, do not handle it excessively. Oils from your skin can cause toning or spots that reduce the grade and value. So use gloves or handle it only by the edges. Place it immediately in a protective holder and consider getting it professionally graded if it seems significant. The cost of grading is usually $20 to $50 per coin, depending on the service and turnaround time you choose, which might seem like a lot for a penny. But if that penny turns out to be worth thousands or even millions, it's the best investment you'll ever make. And speaking of investments, I need to remind you that we've still got 3 more incredible coins to discuss, including that 2000 D penny worth 45 million that I keep teasing, and each one has its own unique story, its own path to extraordinary value, and its own lessons about what makes a coin go from pocket change to life-changing treasure. So make sure you're staying with me because the knowledge you're gaining in this video could literally be worth millions if you apply it correctly. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2000 D Lincoln penny. And this is the one I've been hyping up because we're talking about $45 million, which makes it potentially the most valuable penny on our entire list today. And what's absolutely crazy about this is that we're talking about a coin from the year 2000, which means it could literally be in your pocket right now, sitting in your change jar at home, or hiding in a roll of pennies at your local bank. The year 2000 was monumental for multiple reasons. It was the turn of the millennium. Y2K had everyone worried that computers would crash and society would collapse. Spoiler alert. It didn't. And the US Mint was producing coins at an absolutely staggering rate, with the Denver Mint alone striking over 8.7 billion Lincoln cents that year, making it one of the highest production years in history. And you'd think that with so many coins being produced, nothing could possibly be rare or valuable, but you'd be wrong. See, this is where the fascinating paradox of modern numismatics comes into play. The more coins you produce, the faster you have to produce them, and the faster you produce them, the more likely errors become. Plus, there's another factor at work here, which is that most people in the year 2000 weren't thinking about collecting or saving pennies. They were just spending them without a second thought, which means that many error coins and pristine specimens simply went into circulation and got beaten up, damaged, or lost, making the survival rate of perfect examples incredibly low. So what exactly makes a 2000 D penny worth $45 million? Well, we're talking about the perfect specimen, a coin that checks every possible box that collectors look for. And let me break down what that means. First, you need a major, museum-quality error, and the 2000 D is known for several spectacular error varieties. The 2000 D double die obverse is perhaps the most famous, featuring dramatic doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust that's visible to the naked eye and absolutely stunning under magnification, creating that characteristic doubled image effect that collectors prize so highly. But there are also 2000 D pennies with incredible off-center strikes. We're talking 50%, 60%, even 70% off-center while still retaining the full date, which creates a coin that's more blank planchet than design, but still technically legal tender and absolutely mesmerizing to look at. Then you've got the wrong planchet errors, where a penny was struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's much smaller than normal but shows the penny design, or struck on a quarter planchet, creating an oversized penny that weighs far more than it should. And these errors are so rare that only a handful of examples exist for most years. There are also broad strikes where the collar malfunctioned, creating a penny that's wider and thinner with a distinctive rough edge, clipped planchets where a portion of the blank was missing before striking, and multiple strikes where the coin was hit 2 or 3 times, creating overlapping images. And any of these errors in perfect condition is worth serious money. But here's where it gets really insane. The theoretical $45 million valuation assumes you've found a coin that combines multiple rare characteristics, like a dramatically doubled die that's also off-center, or a wrong planchet error that's also a multiple strike, all while maintaining an absolutely perfect MS-70 grade with full red luster, meaning the coin looks like it just came off the press yesterday despite being over 20 years old. Such a coin would be literally one of a kind, the finest known example in existence. And when you have true one-of-a-kind status in the collecting world, especially for a modern coin that proves mistakes still happen even with advanced technology, the value becomes almost limitless because you're dealing with mega collectors and institutions who have essentially unlimited budgets when it comes to acquiring the best of the best. Think about the billionaires and multimillionaires who collect coins as a hobby. For them, spending $45 million on the finest, most perfect, most unique penny in existence is like us spending a few dollars on a coffee. It's a rounding error in their overall wealth, and they derive tremendous satisfaction and prestige from owning something that nobody else can have. The auction history of 2000 D-era pennies is already impressive even though these coins are relatively young. Heritage Auctions has sold several nice examples for thousands of dollars, and rumor has it that private sales of the finest specimens have reached six figures. But we haven't yet seen that perfect example hit the market, that MS-70 multi-era specimen that would truly test the upper limits of what collectors are willing to pay. And when that day comes, I guarantee it will make headlines around the world. Now, let me tell you why I'm so passionate about the 2000 D penny specifically. This coin represents hope and opportunity in a way that older coins simply can't. Because while finding a perfect 1909 SVDB penny in your pocket is essentially impossible, they're all locked away in collections. Finding a valuable 2000 D penny is absolutely achievable if you know what to look for and you're willing to put in the effort. I personally know people who have found valuable 2000 D errors in bankrolls. People who weren't even serious collectors but just decided to buy a box of pennies and go through them while watching TV, and boom, they found something worth thousands of dollars that they can now either sell or keep as a treasured heirloom. And here's something that should motivate you. The year 2000 wasn't that long ago, which means many of these coins are still out there in active circulation. They haven't all been found and certified yet. There are still treasures waiting to be discovered. Every time you get change at a store, every time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, every time you find a penny on the ground, there's a tiny but real chance that you're holding a fortune in your hands. And all it takes is a moment to check the date. Look for the D mint mark and examine the coin for errors. The process is simple but requires attention to detail. When you find a 2000 D penny, look at it under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass, and check the following. First, examine the date and the word Liberty for any signs of doubling, where the letters appear to have a shadow or ghost image. Second, check if the design is properly centered or if there's a noticeable shift creating a crescent of blank metal on one side. Third, look at the color and luster because bright red. Uncirculated coins are worth dramatically more than brown circulated ones. Fourth, weigh the coin if possible because wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. And fifth, look for any other oddities like multiple strikes, clips, or broad strikes that indicate something went wrong during production. If you find anything that seems unusual or valuable, protect it immediately by placing it in a coin flip or holder. Do not clean it under any circumstances because cleaning will destroy most of the value. And consider sending it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading, which costs around $20 to $50 per coin but provides you with a certified, encapsulated coin that's much easier to sell if it turns out to be valuable. The grading services will examine your coin under high magnification, assign it a numerical grade from 1 to 70, verify its authenticity, and seal it in a tamper-evident holder with a label showing all the relevant information. And having a coin professionally graded dramatically increases its marketability and value because buyers trust the grading services to be accurate and consistent. Now, I want to emphasize something important. While the theoretical maximum value of a perfect 2000 D-era penny might be $45 million, even more modest examples can be worth substantial amounts of money. We're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for nice error coins in high grades, which is still absolutely life-changing money for most people. And the beautiful thing about coin collecting is that it's a hobby that can actually make you money if you're smart about it. Unlike most hobbies that just cost money, and the knowledge you're gaining right now, learning about which coins to look for and what makes them valuable is an investment in your financial future that could pay off in ways you can't even imagine. And we're not done yet. We still have two more amazing coins to discuss, including a 2015 penny worth $25 million and a 2016 penny worth $32 million. And each one has its own incredible characteristics and opportunities. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to be a mini expert on valuable modern pennies, and you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2015 Lincoln penny. And we're stepping into extremely recent territory now, talking about a coin that's less than a decade old and yet potentially worth $25 million, which should really drive home the point that you don't need ancient, historical coins to find incredible value. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight in the most modern forms. The 2015 Lincoln penny is particularly fascinating because this was a year when the U.S. Mint was producing over 9 billion pennies combined between Philadelphia and Denver, and with that kind of massive production volume, you'd think quality control would catch every error. But the reality is that mistakes still happen, and when they do, they create opportunities for collectors and treasure hunters like us. So what makes a 2015 penny potentially worth $25 million? Well, as with all the coins we've discussed, it comes down to the perfect storm of rarity, errors, and condition. But there are some specific characteristics of 2015 pennies that make them particularly interesting to collectors. First, let's talk about the double die varieties that have been discovered on 2015 pennies, both from Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D-mint mark. And these are significant errors featuring clear doubling on critical elements of the design, especially the date, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." And some of these double dies are so dramatic that you can see the doubling without any magnification at all, just looking at the coin in good light, which makes them incredibly popular with collectors because the error is visually obvious and impressive. The 2015 double die obverse in particular has become somewhat legendary in recent years, with examples selling at major auctions for hundreds and even thousands of dollars depending on the grade. And we're talking about coins that people found in circulation, in bankrolls, and in pocket change, not rarities that had been locked away in vaults for decades. This accessibility is what makes modern era coins so exciting. There's a genuine chance that anyone, regardless of experience or resources, could stumble upon a fortune if they just take the time to look. Beyond double dies, there are also the standard array of striking errors that can occur on any coin. Off-center strikes where the design is misaligned, wrong planchet errors where the penny was struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, broad strikes where the collar malfunctioned, clipped planchets where part of the blank was missing before striking, and multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once creating overlapping images. Each of these errors is rare in itself, but when you start combining them with top-tier condition, that's when values start to reach astronomical levels. Imagine finding a 2015 penny that's both a dramatic double die and significantly off-center, showing both types of errors simultaneously, and it's in perfect MS-70 condition with full red luster, no spots, no toning, no imperfections whatsoever. Such a coin would be essentially unique, possibly the only example like it in the entire world. And when you have something that's truly one of kind, the value becomes almost theoretical because it's worth whatever the most passionate and wealthy collector is willing to pay, which could be millions or even tens of millions of dollars. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what are my realistic chances of finding something like this? And that's a great question that deserves an honest answer. The chances of finding that perfect, multi-error, MS-70 specimen are obviously very low. We're talking lottery ticket odds here. But the chances of finding a nice error coin that's worth hundreds or thousands of dollars are actually much better than you'd think. Coin roll hunting, which is the practice of buying rolls of coins from banks and searching through them for errors and varieties, has become hugely popular in recent years, and people are finding valuable coins all the time. In fact, there are entire online communities dedicated to sharing finds, helping each other identify varieties, and celebrating the thrill of discovery. I follow several YouTube channels and forums where people post their finds, and I'm consistently amazed at what people are discovering in circulation: double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, and other errors that are worth serious money. And many of these finds are from 2015 and other recent years because those coins are still actively circulating and haven't all been picked over by collectors yet. The key to successful coin roll hunting is volume and persistence. You have to be willing to go through a lot of coins. We're talking hundreds or even thousands of pennies, looking at each one carefully for potential errors. And you can't get discouraged if you don't find something valuable immediately, because it's a numbers game. The more coins you examine, the higher your odds of finding something special. But here's the beautiful part. Even if you don't find any errors, you can just return the coins to the bank and get your money back. so it's essentially a free lottery ticket with no financial risk beyond the time you invest. When examining 2015 pennies specifically, you want to focus on several key areas. First, check the date very carefully because the 2015 double die varieties show prominent doubling on the last digit especially, where you can see a clear secondary image of the 5, creating a shadow effect. Second, examine the word Liberty, which also often shows doubling on strong double die varieties. Third, look at the overall centering of the design to see if it's shifted noticeably to one side. Fourth, assess the color and condition because red uncirculated coins are worth dramatically more than brown circulated ones. And fifth, look for any unusual characteristics like wrong metal composition, unusual weight, strange edge characteristics, or anything else that seems off. If you find something promising, and I really can't stress this enough, do not clean it. I've seen people destroy valuable coins by trying to make them shiny with polish or abrasive cleaners, and cleaning a coin can reduce its value by 50%, 75%, or even more because collectors value original surfaces and patina. Instead, handle the coin only by its edges, place it in a protective holder, and if it seems potentially valuable, send it to a professional grading service for authentication and certification. The investment in grading is minimal compared to the potential return, and having a coin professionally certified makes it infinitely easier to sell if you decide you want to cash in rather than keep it for your collection. Now, the 2015 penny also benefits from what I call the modern relevance factor. Because this coin is so recent, there's extensive documentation about varieties and errors. There are high-quality photos and attributions available online, and it's much easier to verify authenticity compared to older coins where provenance might be questionable. This transparency gives collectors confidence and supports higher prices because buyers know exactly what they're getting and can verify that it's legitimate. The auction results for high-grade 2015 era pennies have been trending upward consistently over the past few years, with heritage auctions, great collections, and eBay all showing strong sales for nice examples. And as more collectors become aware of these varieties and start actively searching for them, demand will only increase, which should drive prices even higher. And here's something that really excites me about the 2015 penny in particular. Because it's so recent, many of these coins are still sitting in bank vaults, still sealed in original mint bags, still waiting to be released into circulation, which means that new high-grade examples are being discovered all the time. And this ongoing discovery process keeps the hobby fresh and exciting because you never know when someone might find an even better example than what's currently known, potentially, rewriting the record books and establishing new value benchmarks. But beyond the financial aspects, there's something deeply satisfying about the detective work involved in finding these treasures, examining each coin carefully, looking for subtle anomalies, researching varieties to confirm what you've found, connecting with other collectors to share knowledge and compare notes, and ultimately holding something in your hand that very few people possess. The community aspect of coin collecting is really special, with people from all walks of life united by this common interest, and there's a genuine camaraderie and willingness to help that you don't always find in other hobbies. I've made friends through coin collecting who I never would have met otherwise, people who share my passion for numismatics, and who are always ready to offer advice, celebrate finds, or just talk about the latest auction results and market trends. And we're almost done with our incredible journey through these valuable pennies, but we have one more coin to discuss, the 2016 Lincoln penny worth $32 million. And this is going to be our grand finale, the perfect conclusion to everything we've been talking about. So make sure you stick around because the 2016 has some unique characteristics that make it absolutely fascinating. And if you thought this one was valuable, you absolutely won't believe what we have to say about our final coin. Next, 2016 Lincoln penny. And here we are at our grand finale, the last coin in this incredible journey through valuable modern pennies. And we're going out with a bang because we're talking about a potential value of $32 million for the right specimen. The 2016 Lincoln penny represents the culmination of everything we've been discussing. All the principles of error coins, condition grading, rarity, and collector demand coming together in one relatively recent package that could literally be sitting in your pocket right now as you watch this video. Think about that for a moment. You could be carrying around a multi-million-dollar treasure without even knowing it. And by the end of this script, you're going to know exactly what to look for to make sure you don't accidentally spend a fortune. The year 2016 was significant in American coinage for several reasons. The U.S. Mint was continuing its massive production of Lincoln cents, with billions being struck at both Philadelphia and Denver to meet the economy's demand for pennies. And even though we're now well into the 21st century with advanced minting technology, computer-controlled presses, and sophisticated quality control systems, errors still occur with surprising regularity, which proves that as long as humans and machines are involved in the production process, mistakes are inevitable, and those mistakes create the opportunities that collectors live for. So let's break down exactly what makes a 2016 Lincoln penny potentially worth $32 million. Because this is a complex equation that involves multiple factors all aligning perfectly to create something truly extraordinary. First and foremost, you need a major, dramatic error that's immediately visible and compelling. And the 2016 is known for several spectacular error varieties that have collectors buzzing with excitement. The 2016 double die obverse is perhaps the most famous, featuring clear, strong doubling on the date, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." And this isn't subtle doubling that you need high-powered magnification to appreciate. This is bold, obvious doubling that creates a striking visual effect where the inscriptions appear to have shadows or ghost images, making the coin instantly recognizable as something special even to non-collectors. But the errors don't stop there. 2016 pennies have also been found with significant off-center strikes. And we're talking about dramatic misalignments where 30%, 40%, 50% or more of the design is shifted off the planchet, creating a coin that shows part of the intended design on one side and a crescent or arc of blank metal on the other. And these off-center strikes are visually stunning because they reveal the production process in a way that normal coins don't, showing you what the planchet looked like before the design was struck. And collectors absolutely love this behind-the-scenes glimpse into how coins are made. Then you have the wrong planchet errors, which are among the rarest and most valuable errors that can occur. Imagine a Lincoln cent die being used to strike a planchet that was intended for a dime, creating a penny that's much smaller and lighter than it should be, but still shows the penny design, or being struck on a planchet meant for a quarter, creating an oversized penny that weighs dramatically more than normal, or even being struck on a foreign planchet that was somehow mixed into the production line, creating a coin that's unlike anything that was supposed to exist. These wrong planchet errors are so rare because they require multiple failures in the mint's quality control systems. The wrong planchet has to make it into the production line. It has to get fed into the press. It has to get struck. And then it has to escape inspection and get packaged for distribution. And at every one of those stages, there are systems and people whose job is to catch these errors. So when one slips through, it's truly remarkable. There are also broad strike errors where the collar that normally constrains the coin during striking was missing or malfunctioned, creating a penny that's wider, thinner, and has a distinctive rough edge instead of the normal smooth rim. Clipped planchet errors where a portion of the blank planchet was missing before striking, creating a coin that looks like someone took a bite out of it. And multiple strike errors where the coin was struck 2 or 3 times, often with slight rotation between strikes, creating overlapping images that look almost surreal and otherworldly. Any one of these errors in high grade is worth serious money, but when you start combining them, imagine a 2016 penny that's both a dramatic double die and significantly off-center, or a wrong planchet error that's also a multiple strike. The value skyrockets exponentially because you're dealing with something that's not just rare, but potentially unique, possibly the only example like it in the entire world. But errors alone aren't enough to justify a $32 million valuation. You also need perfect preservation, and this is where condition grading becomes absolutely critical. In the world of coins, condition is graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 1 being barely identifiable and 70 being absolutely perfect. And when we're talking about multi-million-dollar valuations, we're talking about coins that grade MS 69 or MS 70, meaning they're in virtually perfect condition with no visible flaws even under 5x magnification. Full original luster that looks like the coin just came off the press, and that beautiful red color that copper pennies have when they're brand new. before they start to oxidize and turn brown. Finding a major error coin in this kind of perfect condition is incredibly difficult because error coins often get damaged during the production process itself. The very thing that makes them errors can also damage them, like an off-center strike that causes the die to scrape across the planchet, or a multiple strike that creates metal flow and distortion. So finding an error coin that's also in perfect condition is like winning the lottery twice. And then there's the final piece of the puzzle, which is authenticity and certification. In the world of high-value coins, having a coin professionally graded and authenticated by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, is absolutely essential because these services provide third-party verification that the coin is genuine, accurately graded, and properly attributed, and they seal the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a label showing all the relevant information, which gives buyers confidence and supports higher prices. A raw coin, even if it's genuinely valuable, will sell for a fraction of what the same coin would bring if it's certified because buyers are naturally skeptical and need that professional confirmation to be willing to pay top dollar. Now, let me paint you a picture of what the perfect 2016 penny would look like, the one that could theoretically command that $32 million price tag. Imagine a coin that combines a dramatic double die obverse with a significant off-center strike, creating a specimen that shows both types of errors simultaneously, and it's been preserved in absolutely perfect MS70 condition with full red luster, sharp strike despite the errors, and no imperfections whatsoever, and it's been certified by PCGS or NGC with full attribution of both error types. And it has a compelling provenance. Maybe it was found by a collector who can document exactly where and when they discovered it. And it's being auctioned at the perfect time when multiple mega collectors are competing for it, driving the price to unprecedented levels. That's the kind of perfect storm that could create a $32 million penny. Is it likely? No, of course not. These kinds of perfect specimens are incredibly rare, but is it possible? Absolutely yes. And the fact that it's possible is what makes coin collecting so exciting and keeps people searching through millions of pennies hoping to find that one special coin. But here's what I want you to understand. Even if you never find that perfect $32 million specimen, there are thousands of valuable 2016 pennies out there worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars. And those are absolutely findable if you know what to look for and you're willing to put in the effort. Coin roll hunting is free beyond the time investment because you can always return the coins you don't keep. Estate sales and garage sales often have jars of coins that nobody has examined carefully.